They called him the Diesel.
Crank up that diesel. Let's go.
He leaned across the table and he goes, "You need to get me back there. I'll make you famous."
And to Riggins, good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone.
It's Riggo the Diesel.
Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of Riggo the Diesel, episode 62, or season 2, episode 23. Depends on how you want to score it. Larry Michael, voice of the Voice and Redskins, with me this morning. Larry, before we get down the road too far, I've got something I have to express. Last week, about 10 days ago, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, we got a couple of packages at the house.
Yeah.
One of them weighed about 120 pounds. The other was about 90 pounds.
Whoa.
Turns out that my wife had purchased she says it's a vanity, but you got to figure by the time it's put together, it's over 200 pounds. So yesterday, because it was right after the holidays, things were going on, I opened one of these boxes up. Now, first of all, keep in mind that it had 3 of the words that I think are just anathema to me anyway, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but that's just the way I feel. It had "Made in China" stamped on it.
Made in China.
Yeah, right away
China.
I'm going, this could be a problem. So I opened the thing up, and it looks like, somebody made coleslaw inside of it. It had all this cheapo styrofoam in it, and it's all chewed up, and all the pieces are all this. It looks to me like, and I just left it that way, and I called my wife because I was going to start putting this thing together. I had no idea what I was getting into. There must be 1,000 pieces in there. I mean, if she would have got me one of those jigsaw puzzles, about 5,000 pieces, and it's just an all white, when you get it done, it's all white. There's no picture or anything.
Right, you got to do
I'd probably be better off being able to put that together than this thing. I tell you, Larry, it's like staggers my imagination exactly what's going on with this thing, because it's got about 8 drawers in it. You got to put all the drawers together, piece them together.
Right.
And
you got this yesterday?
What's that?
You got it yesterday?
No, I've had
10
it for a
days ago?
while, but
Is
I
it done?
opened it yesterday.
Oh, you opened it. Are you done putting it together?
Well, the point is that I don't know if I want to accept it because it's all, I'm not sure how chewed up it is. Anyway, it's just like I'm wondering, do you get those deals where you get stuff that you got to put together? I mean, I do, and I don't have a problem with it, but when it's something like this, it's almost like you got to have an engineering degree from MIT.
Yeah, what guy likes putting stuff together like that? I don't know anybody that likes putting stuff together. I'm the worst at it. I can do it, but I don't like doing it.
Exactly.
And it's a pain in the neck, and it sounds to me that you ought to pack that thing right back up, put a couple stamps on it,
yeah,
and send it back to China.
Here's the other thing: they got a piece of cardboard that they cobbled on the side of it because somehow it got a rip in it. So they got all this,
They bandaged the box.
Shipping tape. Exactly, it's got a huge bandage on it. But the other part, the snag on this thing is, Larry, it took 4 people to carry this one box upstairs. It's like I said, it's awkward. It's about 3 or 4 feet this way. It's about a foot thick and about 2-3 feet wide. It's like, what do you do with the damn thing?
So what did you tell your wife about this? Because you obviously did not order this.
I'm trying to be. I guess yeah, exactly. Well, it was because our daughter did well into the grades. It was a present for her, which I'm all behind that. I didn't realize how complicated it was going to get. That was my mistake. But so it was one of those deals where I'm kind of hoping that she'll go, like you said, well, let's just throw it back together and get it out of here. But anyway, I'm working.
Couldn't you have gotten it already pre-made up, or maybe? I guess.
Well, that's the way I think. I said, what? How I couldn't go to a store around here and just go in and say this is what we want and ship it over and have some guys carry it in, put it in place?
Yeah,
that'd have been too simple. Anyway, well, we had a big weekend this weekend in football. Obviously, we got 2 teams going to the Super Bowl. One that hadn't been there for 50 years. I mean, you got to go back 50 years, Larry. I was 20 years old. I think I was when Kansas City went to the Super Bowl. What would have been 1970? Well, I'd have been at the University of Kansas for crying out loud.
Matriculating the ball up the field.
Yes, exactly.
Were you a Chiefs fan?
No. Not that I mean, you got to appreciate where I grew up, and I was telling Dexter on the way out here, we're doing the 3-part series with Dexter.
Yes.
And we're going to do one after we're done here.
Soon to be announced the dates of those in-depth interviews with the great Dexter Manley.
Yeah, anyway, no, not really, because we only got one channel that we could watch.
You only got one channel?
CBS. That was
it. You didn't get NBC?
ABC, NBC, no.
What do you have, rabbit ears that only went so far?
And NBC back in those days did the AFL. They broadcast AFL.
That's right. Kirk Gowdy.
Well, I don't know. I never saw it. So we got to watch the St. Louis Cardinals, which I went, oh, this is great. The only I remember the St. Louis Cardinals, but they weren't a particularly good football team. Besides, we'd watch maybe a quarter of it, and then we'd be out playing. Right. But no, so I wasn't a Chiefs fan. But I have to admit, I'm from the area, and obviously a lot of people out there that are Chiefs fans, and I'm pleased for them. And Andy Reid as well. He's been a long time coming.
I got two topics for you, and I've been dying to talk to you about this. First of all, for San Francisco, we'll look at these two teams. Okay, you got San Francisco, Kansas City. San Francisco's starting running back got hurt, and the backup running back came in and ran for 220 yards. And this morning I thought, you know what? A little bit like Timmy Smith, maybe, a guy that really nobody had heard of. Could you talk about Mostert? He's been cut by 8 teams. Imagine how he felt. 4 touchdowns, 220 yards.
I can't imagine what he felt like. I mean, that in a championship game on national television, it's almost like overnight you become an instant star. And now, and then you factor into the whole equation that they only threw the ball 8 times. I mean, that is bizarre. I remember playing a game like that, but the wind was blowing 70 miles an hour. You couldn't throw the football. You had to run it. But, yeah, I mean, now it's like, okay, he's got 2 weeks. He got the Super Bowl coming up. It's like, what do you do for an encore? I mean, or do you? And actually, it's kind of like I think when I saw in the beginning of the game, they're talking about they got 3 running backs.
That's right.
And they kind of go with, well, who's got the hot hand? Well, obviously he had the hot hand. If he's not going well in the Super Bowl, do they bring in another guy and see what he can do? But, yeah, it was pretty amazing. But I got to tell you, what I've noticed, and this is something I wanted to bring up, and you kind of lead me into this, and I'm not going to say this necessarily was what was going on with him, but the tackling in the NFL nowadays by the DBs it doesn't exist. It really, it's insane. Where I've never seen so many times where they make contact with somebody, and the ball will end up 10 yards down the field because they're holding them up, and somebody's trying to paw at the football, and they just keep going down the field. They stand up, then all of a sudden the offensive linemen show up, and they start pushing the pile down the field. It's like, what is this? It's almost an insult to anybody that played hard knocks football. I got to say, with the league and all that, I appreciate the way they've cleansed the rules and made it, safer game for everybody. Certainly something that had to be done, but it still doesn't replace the fundamentals of football, which is wrapping a guy up. You put your arms around him, and you put your shoulder into him, and you drive him to the ground. A classic example I saw was, and if you recall, did you watch both games?
Yes,
most
sir.
of them? There was a play where the Titans had the football, and what's his name? Tannenhill threw a quick pass out to his left to a receiver he had out there. Well, the safety read the play. He closed on the play, and he hit this guy with a shoulder. Well, he hit him with such force he knocked him down. But there's no, and he got up and and he didn't get up because he was still standing. But it was like he's thinking to himself, "Oh, what a good boy am I!" Right? He stuck in his thumb, pulled out a plum. I'm looking at that and I'm rolling my eyes, going, "You got to be kidding me!" I thought it was a BS play. Yeah, he stopped him, but it's like, this ain't the way it's done. You get a clean shot at this guy, you put your shoulder into him, you wrap your arms around him, you lift him out of his shoes, and you drive him down. I mean, he wasn't a defenseless. And I think guys that played back when it was, it was a man's game, and I'm probably kind of dating myself, and I'm sure the young guys today go, "Hey, Pops, easy." What do they say? Right, Boomer?
Yeah.
Okay, Boomer, that's what I would get. But I see this and I go, okay, well, I guess it sells because, you get a guy that gets up this many yards, and everybody likes that. They like offense. So anyway.
You're on a roll, Riggo. Can San Francisco win the Super Bowl throwing 8 passes?
Hard to beat. I mean, who would have think? I mean, they say every year you come back, and I say, and I remember Richie Pettibone saying this years ago, you have to, if you can't throw the football, you can't win the NFL. Richie, we've got to go back to school here, and we got to catch up with the rest of the world, because sometimes you can do that, I think, in the sense that the other team isn't really, they're thinking you're going to do something else. But in this situation, because San Francisco can throw the football, they can throw the football with anybody, but it's like anything else. This is working. Why do you want to throw the football? So it's just pretty amazing, if you ask me.
Going to talk about Kansas City here in a second and Patrick Mahomes. But first, looking for another chance to win? $100,000 scratch or replay from the Virginia Lottery is exactly that, now through March 31st. Any non-winning Virginia Lottery scratcher offers a winning number of $500 in a daily drawing and even $10,000 grand prize. Here's a lowdown. Any non-winning Virginia Lottery scratcher can be entered into a daily drawing. In each daily drawing, 2 players win $500 each. Every entry into the daily drawing is automatically entered in one of the grand prize drawings set for April 7th. On that date, one lucky player will win $10 grand. All entries must be entered either via valottery.com/replay or the Virginia Lottery app. The fun doesn't stop. If you don't win on your scratcher, just replay it with $100 K. That's $100,000. Scratcher replay. Visit valottery.com/replay for more information. The odds of winning a prize in the $100,000 scratcher replay promotion depend on the number of entries received.
How much was it for each entry? Did it cost you $1?
Let's see here. What did it say here? Doesn't say.
See, I'm the kind of guy.
How much you're saying? Is it a $1 ticket?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm the kind of guy that would have to spend $999,000.
Actually,
and to win $100,000.
No, these are non-winning scratchers. So if you get a scratcher for $5 and you scratch it off and you don't win anything, you still have a second chance.
Ah.
So that's even a non-winning ticket. So you still got a shot with the Virginia Lottery. Keep it down over there, fellas. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, a little bit. The peanut gallery's getting
in. Yeah, hear him over.
Unfortunately, Larry, we do not have a bouncer that can work with that one guy over there. So one guy, T-Cat, I think we can handle.
Yeah.
That other guy, I think I'm going to have to pass on him. Unless T-Cat's passing hardware, because there was no security guard this morning. We just kind of slid on through.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You got something to talk about here. Now, I know you know the number.
The number?
Yeah. 833-RIGO-44.
I'm thinking, yeah, that's right. I was waiting for the music. And that's funny. You say that, 833-RIGO-44. That's what I was going to start out. And that number, call that number. Be a robocaller. Call it constantly. No, don't do that. It's O'Connor Plumbing. It's cold weather, folks. You're probably, I hope not. I really do hope it doesn't happen to you, because I just had a little episode over the weekend. That was fun. And I didn't have to call O'Connor Plumbing. I handled it myself because they're busy out taking care of all the other good folks that have a real problem. But O'Connor Plumbing is where you want to get a hold of, because they'll do the job right. They'll do it at a fair price. And let's face it, it's going to get colder the rest of the week. So if you got a crack in a pipe. And the other thing is, they come in, if you want them to, they'll give you a free inspection and tell you stuff that you ought to keep an eye on. And, if you like their work, which I know you're going to, you'll call them back. 1-833-RIGO-44. O'Connor Plumbing, can't go wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand back and watch the Phoenix rise from the ashes.
Stand back. It's Riggo the Diesel.
Why did I do it? Why?
Every time I hear it, it's just, and you resonated so well. It was just a great moment.
Well, yeah. You ever seen that? You ever watch SpongeBob?
Yeah, my kids used to watch SpongeBob. I can't say I've been watching it lately.
Well, do you remember there was a character in there called Mrs. Puff? She was teaching SpongeBob how to drive. And every once in a while, SpongeBob would do what SpongeBob does, which is screw something up. And she'd just go, "Why, SpongeBob, why?" That's
why did you
when
do
I
that?
hear that, I think to myself, "Why, John? Why?"
If you look up Phoenix rising from the ashes, it's actually rising from fire.
Exactly.
So I got to do a little research on that. Now,
you did good, because I did the same thing just recently. I went, that's not exactly accurate.
I want to tee you up because you were on a roll in the first segment. I'm going to tee you up here about Kansas City. It took me a while. I still wasn't really a believer in Patrick Mahomes. I am now. What'd you think about his performance in the playoffs, and is this guy unstoppable or not?
Well, you're going to find out in 2 weeks, because I'd say that we just talked about the 49ers, and the one thing, my brother Frank, he texted me like on Friday or Saturday, and he says, "Who do you like this weekend?" And I told him, I said that Kansas City should have been in the Super Bowl last year. They had a guy who now plays for San Francisco, interesting enough, a linebacker, last name Ford, I believe it is, who jumped off sides or got in a neutral zone violation when Brady threw an interception, which would have ended the game. It gave them a 5-yard they got a 5-yard penalty, kept the ball, and of course, ended up winning the game. So I told him Kansas City should have been the Super Bowl last year, meaning I think they're going to win. And San Francisco, I said, defense is suffocating, which is, to me, this is a great matchup for a Super Bowl because you do have this overwhelming, and Kansas City's defense playing better, and you've got San Francisco's offense, who I think is playing at a pretty high level as well. But yeah, Mahomes, he's able to do stuff with a football. He finds receivers. He's got a great arm, and I think what you saw on Sunday was he also now has that ability to avoid people. He gets outside the pocket. He can run with the football. He can find people on the run. I mean, he's the new up-and-comer, and really is, I guess that's what people will be looking for is the next Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid certainly found himself a diamond. I mean, and he was a later-round draft pick with several quarterbacks going before him, correct?
Yep.
I mean, when you look at when it's all said and done, it's kind of funny how drafts turn out. And everybody, like we were talking about earlier in this season, how everybody's jockeying for that number 1 overall pick,
right?
Of who's going to get that pick. And now all of a sudden you got a similar situation with Joe Burrows from LSU. Is he one of those generational talents? A lot of people feel like he is. Nobody saw Mahomes going to be that guy, but with Andy Reid, you got to keep in mind that this may be that Andy Reid has never really had a quarterback with these kind of chops. I mean, you had McNabb way back when, but he wasn't quite where Mahomes is. And you also have to say this, Andy Reid, you go back to the last Super Bowl, which I think was over 10 years ago. It was like, in 2005, I think, when they went.
T.O. played with the broken leg, I think,
exactly.
Right? He came back from a broken leg.
And, of course, you had McNabb as a quarterback. Well, that's 15 years that Andy Reid has honed his offense.
Right.
And now they've got they got the kid Hill on the outside who can, once he gets the ball. I'm not so sure. I guess he is that fast, but it's like he's almost like a hummingbird. His legs, you don't actually see the legs. It's like a blur when he starts running. He's got such rapid leg movement. But I think it's going to be a good game.
I want one more thing about Mahomes. It seems he can escape, and when he starts scrambling and rolling, he pumps, and the defense is frozen. It is a little reminiscent to me of Joe Montana. As he used to roll out, he'd pump and pump and pump, and he's going to throw, he's going to run. And this guy took off. That touchdown run was just a thing of beauty. That might be the best touchdown run by a quarterback that I've ever seen in the playoffs. I agree. Starr gets a lot of credit for the 1-yard plunge in the Ice Bowl, but that was a 1-yard plunge. This was ridiculous.
Well, it was, but then if you look at this, I mean, once again, I'm thinking to myself, that was bad defense. I think the linebacker took a poor angle. Now, maybe Mahomes is so much faster than everybody that the linebacker didn't realize that he underestimated, but he takes a better angle. It doesn't happen. And this is what made me think of the one guy I just told you about with the poor tackling. They get him down. They've got a couple guys down on the, 3-yard line or so. What do you see the one guy? He hits him, but he starts trying to pull the ball out as he takes him into the end zone. I'm going, well, you just don't get it, do you? I was telling T-Cat on the way out here, I said, I would tell these guys that, look, here's what you do. If you get the guy on the ground, stop him in his tracks. Don't worry about the fumble. You hit him as hard as you can, wrap him up, put him on the ground. If you get a fumble that way, that's a forced fumble. The stuff where you try to, peck it out with your claw the ball out, I don't get it.
Final thing on the Super Bowl coming up. You've got a veteran defense, Richard Sherman. He's kind of the leader of their defense. Kansas City's defense has been a little hot and cold. They ended up stopping Derrick Henry in the second half. So this looks like two teams playing at a high level, competitive, evenly matched. Best Super Bowl in a long time as you forecast this?
Yeah, I think so. And in a way, I think so. Now, I don't know, because everybody's raving about the speed of both of these teams. And I was going to ask you, conversely, when you look at the roster out here in Ashburn here at Redskin Park, do you see similarities on defense or offense with the kind of speed that you see that Kansas City has, or even that particularly on its defense with San Francisco? I'll tell you, the guy that's impressed me a lot is Bosa. I mean, this guy, and he's a rookie this year, and he's a guy that got a big motor on him, and he's after that quarterback. That's what caught my attention 2 weeks ago when they played in the divisional round. That's who these people are. So I do think it's going to be a Super Bowl well worth watching. Because in a way, you got, like I said, you got speed versus speed. And I think to a certain extent, San Francisco's offense is now taking a little bit of a back seat to the defense. And conversely, certainly Kansas City's defense is taking a back seat to their offense. But there's a couple things I thought in the game, the championship game against Kansas City and Tennessee, is that Kansas City, they've got so many different gears that it takes them. Apparently, the last 2 weeks it's taken them a while to get out of the blocks.
Right.
But good God, once they start and get out of the blocks, it's kind of like the difference between a Corvette and a Porsche. Corvette's a muscle car, and it comes off of the line screaming, right? A Porsche, not so much. It doesn't have that kind of torque. But once they get up to 70, 80 miles an hour, the Porsche will run off and leave a Corvette. And that isn't necessary, and that's kind of the way Kansas City's more like a Porsche. They get off the line slow, but once they get to rolling, their top end is unlimited, basically.
Yeah, they are hard to stop when they get rolling.
And so far, and that's what you got to look at. And this is another important thing, I think, Larry, is that, and Tennessee caught lightning for a while because they weren't, 9-7 football team. They make it to the championship game. Congratulations to them. They kind of did it, I don't want to say with smoke and mirrors, but they did it the old-fashioned way, which would have been hard to sustain all the way through, and Kansas City kind of proved that. But when you run into a team like Kansas City and San Francisco, these teams, it's a crescendo. They're getting better by the week. Now, I forget who told me this, but and I don't appreciate the week off. I think the game would be better, and the teams will play better. You'll see better football if they were playing again this Sunday. But of course, you need 2 weeks to basically market the game and bring in a little bit more moolah. That's kind of, I'm sure, that's probably what's behind the 2-week delay, and then play that game that everybody waits to see every year. Can't hardly wait on the edge of your seat, the Pro Bowl. Nobody wants to miss that game.
And John, we have 2 items on our rundown. One is Joe Burrow and his options. The other is the royal family. And for me, one of those 2 is head and shoulders above the other. And we'll tell you what that is. You know where I'm going here.
Yeah.
It's about the royal family. But first this, whether on the field or in the classroom, the Redskins believe learning should be fun. That's why we partner with youth entrepreneurs to bring their engaging, hands-on style of learning to classrooms in the D.C. metro area. Youth Entrepreneurs curriculum was created by educators for educators. That means it's flexible, fun, and absolutely free. To learn more about Youth Entrepreneurs and how to experience it for yourself, visit getye.org. Connect with the Redskins this offseason. Follow the Redskins on Instagram and Twitter for team news, updates, and exclusive Redskins content, such as Riggo the Diesel. And did you know that the Washington Redskins are sponsored by Koch Industries? That's K-O-C-H, Koch. Their 67,000 U.S. employees make a lot of things that make the game day better. Greener turf, they make that. Stronger paper products for tailgating, they make that. Oh, and electronic components and TVs and smart devices so you can watch a Redskins win anywhere. Yeah, Koch makes that too. See all they make for on and off the field at KOCHmakesthat.com.
Hey, I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
Who's bored? Who's broke? And who's back?
I wanted to always see the redwoods. I wanted to see the Rocky Mountains. I wanted to see the Painted Desert, the Petrified Forest, the Grand Canyon. That was like the land that I always wanted to go to.
John Riggins.
All right, Larry, where do you want to go with this?
Well, I just, I love talking football. I got one more football question for you.
All right.
And this is out of left field, but you got a new coaching staff in here, obviously. These guys are working, getting prepared, evaluating everything. But we're talking about Mahomes, and in a lot of instances, this is a quarterback-driven league.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
you're this new coaching staff coming in, and you got Dwayne Haskins, who played at the end of the year, looked like he improved towards the end of the year. What are you thinking if you're the Redskins coaching staff? What do you have to do to help this kid take the next step up? And Scott Turner's the OC now. Ken Zampese, whose father was Ernie Zampese, he's the quarterback coach. And, of course, Ron Rivera is the head coach. But in terms of Dwayne Haskins going into his sophomore season, and you've got a new coaching staff, could you speak on that dynamic a little bit?
Well, first of all, I think it starts with Dwayne. He's got to figure out, the kind of work. I mean, he's got a sense of what he needs to improve on, I would think, by this point in time, and the things that he needs to pay attention to, whether it's reading defenses, whether it's his footwork. I mean, there's a lot of little nuances there that I'm not going to pretend I know because I haven't played quarterback since I was a senior in high school. So, and I didn't exactly play that kind of quarterback. But I would say really it's a matter of, like they always say, of putting him in the best position to succeed. And I think, and the one thing, and you said this fall, and I think it's true of him, that I don't think, he gets discouraged easily. I think that he's the kind of guy, like they talk about cornerbacks, where you got to have a short memory. I think he's got a short memory. He screws something up, like the deal where he was taking a selfie on the sidelines. He's already forgotten about it. He's ready to move on. That's a great trait to have when you play, in this game, because so many times, you get caught thinking about what I did wrong, and you're not in the present anymore. So, but for him, that gets down to, Scott Turner looking at the game film and seeing, and Zampese and seeing how they think that they need to shape him. But when you look at it, it's really, he has an ability. I don't think necessarily it's the same as some of the quarterbacks, an ability to escape the pocket and find people, but I think he has enough of that ability. And you saw this past fall where there were moments in there where he elected to run with the football and picked up a couple of first downs in moments where he could have thrown and forced the ball someplace and not ended up with an interception or something like that. But it's still a process that he's going through, and it's gonna be like there's gonna be good days and there's gonna be a few bad days, and then gradually those bad days start to go away, and then for the most part there are no bad days, and it's just a matter of it all coming together. And a lot of it's how much time he gets and the protection and all these things. But then the other part is on him is to be able to buy more time. As you saw, once again, we go back to Mahomes.
Right.
But there was times where Mahomes he had so much time to throw the football, and yet he still couldn't find anybody. Then he'd move a little bit, and it seems to me it goes back, in a pass coverage situation at the very beginning of it favors the defense to a certain extent. But if that play extends long enough, the odds start going back towards the offense, because all receivers are taught once you get past the sticks, the yard markers, is to come back to the football. The defensive back doesn't know when you're going to break and come back to the ball, and the quarterback sees you, zips the ball in there, you got a first down. And that's what it seems to me that Mahomes does so well. Talk about a guy that extends plays, he keeps them going forever, and then all of a sudden it turns into Sandlot football. And you can't coach and or teach Sandlot football.
Hard to defend that.
It is.
All
Very
right,
hard.
John, the real big question here, and it's a major question: how will these poor kids make ends meet? Is he a former prince now? No, he'll always be a prince.
No, but
his
he's
title
saying
is
they're going to
different.
drop the title. But
Yeah, like Harry of Cambridge or something. Yeah, but he's still prince, no? He's not a prince anymore. He resigned as prince.
What happens, though, if something would be unfortunate and it happened to his older brother? Because then he would be in line. Is that where you go, oh, well, I would just... Because now you're king. Now you're King Andrew. First of all, let's start with this, Larry.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Not me.
Now, I have
Somebody
to say
cares,
this.
though. It's in the news.
I have to say this, full disclosure. T-Cat, I tell him this yesterday. He starts laughing on the phone. What? What are you laughing about? Well, we used to do a show, and he says one of the shows was back when I think William and Kate were getting married. And I guess, my wife, for whatever reason, she's all about the Royals. And, of course, I got two daughters, and Mom's likes Royals. The daughters like Royals. And I don't remember this per se, but Todd was going off basically where I am now. That's why I can't believe I was kind of giving him any resistance. But I guess, T-Cat, I was telling you that, what was it? Who made you queen of?
The Queen of Marksbury. Because
Yeah.
I was so anti-royal.
You were named a queen? They named you a queen? Is that what they said?
exactly.
Did I miss that?
Well, that was kind
That's
of a
what
little
you
bit my
said.
intent.
Stick with the story.
Okay.
I'm very anti. I don't
You're not impressed.
Nah,
No.
Not
No.
whatsoever.
Right.
And John was defending them, and I was like,
Right.
well, is that really what you want to teach your daughters? That, marry a rich princess, and it's the fantasy of it all? And we had a little on-air tit for tat.
You actually had a throwdown because you were anti-royal. You do not have any respect for the royals.
He brings up a good point. It was really, he was defending the honor of the women in his life. Which,
Well, and exactly. And I suppose the fairy tale that the girls have of that's been perpetuated for centuries of marrying the prince.
right.
Well,
Which I can't believe I did that either.
But isn't that what you considered yourself? You were the prince when you were being courted, when you were courting your wife?
Fresh
no?
out of Centralia, Kansas. Yeah, I thought
the Prince of
definitely-
Centralia.
Definitely thought I was a. I was the other part of that. I was the toad or the frog. I was not.
We were all paupers.
I was not a prince.
So
But yeah, I'm with you.
do they have money? I mean, they obviously have a ton of money. I think it was
Well,
something
they
like
say that, but in reality, I don't know. I mean, I heard when I hear this is like the crown is that's like over $1 billion in that corporate that family or whatever in real estate. Then come to find out, but they take taxpayers' money to pay for stuff. In fact, recently, and I just read this, and I wish I had it. And I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, which I read every day. Is that they've recently finally gave the yacht up, the royal yacht. They had to chuck it because that was costing too much taxpayers' money.
So
I mean, if you think about it, what do they? Where do you? God bless Queen Elizabeth, but what has she done lately to bring in a little hard-in cash? It's like, hey, Queen, hey, you want to get off that sofa? Get off that throne.
But
get
this
your
goes
little butt
back
out
hundreds and hundreds of years. Wouldn't that money have been somewhere put away that they actually was their money, and that wouldn't that money have grown through investment or whatever?
But it wasn't once
I gotta
upon a
look
time.
into this.
All the money was their money, wasn't it? You lived in a kingdom.
If you're the king, you own everything.
Here's what I don't get, and I would guess when you think about monarchies, isn't that why this country came about? Was to get away from a monarchy, to have the people rule themselves.
That's right.
So I would think that actually it's antithetical to current thinking and actually in a way should be considered taboo. And yet the world hangs on everything that these people do. And I go, I want to hang myself. I go, you got to be kidding me. Just because, I mean, they've got all the protection around. I mean, going, this is a ruse, folks. This is something that you would expect Soapy Smith to be pulling on you with, putting money in bars of soap. By the way, a new pastime of mine, and this just came out of nowhere, I just had an epiphany, is going on Wikipedia, and I can do this all day long, basically. I got to go, wait a second, I got to get something done. But I've gotten into the gangsters of, when I say gangsters, the crooks like Jesse James, the Dalton gang, and guys like Soapy Smith, John Wesley Hard. Talk about a colorful era. My God, do you realize how often that there were shootouts in the Old West and basically firefights constantly?
I thought he said Soapy Sales too.
I said Soapy Smith. He was
I don't know.
He was a famous con man.
Soapy, not Soapy.
Soapy. He got his nickname. His real name was something else, but I can't remember it right now. Anyway, the Royals. Who needs them?
There's only one prince that really matters.
That's right. That's
Purple
our
Rain,
cat.
baby. Purple Rain.
That's all right. Our cat's
Purple
name is
Rain.
Prince, and as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, he was talented, man.
That's true.
Prince
He
was
I didn't think much of him until I started listening to his music. Went,
Yeah.
Wait a second, this guy's got something going on.
Yeah, and he earned his money.
You know the good thing about him?
He earned his money. He wasn't giving taxpayers money. He earned his money.
You know what's good about him, though, and a lot of musicians that are of that ilk, that he didn't, a lot of them are like one-trick ponies. They keep doing the same song, basically, with different arrangements over and over. You ever notice that? No, he had something different for you every time he had a new song.
All right, so Joe Burrow next week, more of a Super Bowl preview next week as well.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, bud.
When you scratch and you don't win.
100K, scratch or replay.
Now through March 31st, enter any non-winning Virginia Lottery scratcher for a chance to win one of 2 daily $500 prizes or the $10,000 grand prize. Visit VALottery.com/replay for details. Didn't win on the scratcher? Replay it with 100K Scratcher Replay.
100K, scratch or replay.
The odds of winning a prize depend on the number of entries received.
Winter is the season for adventure. And if you want a car as exciting as your lifestyle, then it has to be an all-wheel drive Honda SUV. With more features, the CR-V has standard Honda sensing, more room for friends. The Pilot has seating for 8, more comfort. The HR-V has available heated seats, and more rugged. The Passport is built for adventure with ample cargo space and hidden storage compartments. Winter adventure is calling, and Honda is ready to answer. See your local Honda dealer today.
Dear customer service, I can always count on Novak. My power is always on, my payments always go through, and Novak actually cares about the community they serve.
Dear Novak, your electric costs are reasonable. Some electricity is from alternative sources, and cost reductions are passed along during the year. Thanks.
Novak, power you can count on.
Hey, Redskins Nation.
It's the old pro Darryl Green. You know, when I retired from this Super Bowl winning franchise, I set my sights on transitioning to another winning team, Main Street Bank. I joined Main Street Bank the same year I retired from the Redskins, and we've been serving the D.C. metropolitan area ever since. Online and mobile banking with Main Street Bank is as easy as intercepting a pass from a Dallas Cowboy quarterback. And that was pretty easy.
Main Street Bank, member FDIC.